some things that I already said. So for the week of June 1st to June 6th, we have on the 1st, Mercury enters Cancer. On June 2nd, the sun is sextile Saturn. And then Wednesday, June 3rd, Mercury is square Neptune. Okay. Hi, Cole. Hello. Thank you, guys. So we are taking a peek here. Let me go ahead and set this up so you can see the date down here at the bottom, right? Mercury. Anybody here ruled by Mercury? That would mean that you are a Gemini rising or a Virgo rising. And thank you everybody over on TikTok for liking and sharing the live. It gets my content out to other people who might enjoy it. So I see you, I see you, I see you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. In Vedic, yes, in Vedic astrology you are. So Mercury moving into Cancer is a visceral shift. And for those of you who did sit with me when I did my Mercury retrograde masterclass, which maybe I'll bring back again just to talk about this Mercury retrograde, this whole year, our Mercury retrogrades are in water signs. And I'm bringing that up because Mercury's entering Cancer, which means we're about to get into the terrain of knowing that Mercury is going to be retrograde. That's later. Where is it? Oh, yeah. June 29th. So at the end of this month, Mercury will go retrograde. Okay. So Mercury moving into Cancer on June 1st just shifts that communication space into a more emotional realm. This is taking our planet of communication and moving it into like the womb space, into this like deeper, more profound emotional space. Now Mercury, it's not super comfortable in water. There's more of this like emotional texture that comes in. It takes us out of our head and more into our heart. So as Mercury shifts into Cancer, we're being invited into more of a texture around communicating how we feel. What are these feelings? It's going to be less of like thinking about it, right? And it's going to be, oh, and now this is anxiety, or this is excitement, or this is, right? It's less of the cerebral knowing and more emotional. Conversations are going to be a little bit more tender here. Now, Cancer, I like to think about, if we really break down, like, let's look at the archetype of it, the crab, right? Crabs have these really sharp pincers, right? And it's a protective mechanism at the end of the day. That's what the purpose of the claws are, is to protect. And same with that hard shell. But when you get to like that ooey gooey center, Cancers are very soft and very tender and vulnerable. And so that's what the purpose of like those sharp claws. So there is a space where communication could feel a bit like flashing out, where it's like unconscious emotional reactions will come up with the Mercury, with communication. And so this is talking about conversations and how we relate to people. Cancer is the first water sign, which really draws us into how do I feel? So a lot of the communication terrain is going to be operating in the space of how do I feel? How am I feeling? How do I want to respond? And it can feel really just in the behavior of like, well, I feel this way, so it means it's right, right? That can kind of be something that happens. I'm going to go ahead and say hi to you guys over on TikTok because that is my astrology account. You're also a Cancer sun in Vedic. This is a really potent time for me. Yeah. Yeah. Cancer energy is very vast and very gooey and very... I like to think about the ocean, right? The ocean has this sort of calming presence, but the shift of the moon can change those waves into tsunamis, and just subtle disruption of the environment can change things very quickly. Okay. Very, very quickly. So that's sort of the edges that I'm bringing in with this. Like, it's going to be, I don't know. I find it kind of entertaining because It's like one moment feeling totally fine and secure in your communication, and then the next feeling like, oh my gosh, did I say too much? Now I'm feeling overwhelmed. I don't know how, and then it can kind of spiral. I'm already emotional with your Pisces moon. Now, the beautiful thing about Mercury being in Cancer is it does bring in tender communication and a sensitivity to how you do feel. So for some people, this could be a completely new communication terrain for them around, oh, actually, I'm going to feel into what I'm feeling first for once. For some people who actually really operate in that space, it's just going to feel very like, oh yeah, this is how I operate. But then on the flip side, when we're receiving other people, right? Because we live in a world where we're interacting with other people. Hi, Allie, welcome. And so with that interaction, it's like some people may have more emotional substance, more emotional terrain, more response based off of their emotions. So I'm just going to really bring in the invitation to understand that most people at this time are going to be communicating from the concept of I feel this way. I feel this way. So we have to understand just because somebody's feeling that way, that's okay. We don't have to change or manipulate or back down. So I can feel some claws coming out for this, but also I can see where this can invite in more tender connection as well too, right? You know, I'm thinking of my own like experiences with tension like this, where some people will try to contain how other people are feeling because it overwhelms them. You don't have to. You don't have to. You can take space. You can step away. You can choose to respond differently. You don't have to like, now I need to, right? Thank you. I saw one of your videos. I've never resonated with the tarot reading as much. Let's go, Kaylee. That's what I do. I do. Thank you. Anything else with this Mercury in Cancer? I always like to shift it into that terrain of like, Mercury is very logical, but when we actually look at Mercury as the archetype of like Hermes Mercury, right, the god of communication, Mercury is a hermaphrodite and has a duality to its expression. And so Mercury can be masculine and can be feminine. It is non-binary. And that's the purpose of Mercury, is to be able to traverse through different terrains. And when we think about Gemini is more of that mental logic space. And then we look at Virgo, the other ruler of Mercury, and it brings us into the womb. When we look anatomically at the womb space, the cervix versus the larynx in your throat, they mirror each other. And that's what Mercury does here. And so when we take Mercury and put it in the sign of Cancer, it's just really allowing us to find a different way of communicating through the feeling realm, through the feeling terrain. And it's going to bring a heightened experience around how you feel and perceive other people. Am I just talking about charts? I'm talking about the astrological forecast for the week ahead. So I'm going to be diving into what is coming up for us this week. And if you can't stick around, it's totally fine, Kaylee. I re-upload this to YouTube. And additionally, I write about this in my newsletter, Letters from the 8th House. It's totally free. You can subscribe through the link in my bio or astraemia.substack.com. Yeah. I was in it. I was in the channel talking about Mercury. Mercury is my ruling planet. So I love, you are totally fine, Wolfie. I'm so glad that you are here. So this is just like, it's kind of like the weather forecast, but astrology. That's what we do here. So I'm excited for Mercury in Cancer because it really does bring in that opportunity to kind of just settle into a different level of expression. Anything about Capricorn, if you want a deeper dive on like, everybody's affected. This is collective energy that we're talking about, but there will be room for personal questions at the end where I'll dive into answering like specifics about your chart or things like that. Yeah. So I think the Virgo is ruled by the North Node. Yes. And that is, but the North Node is not an actual celestial body. It is a mathematical equation that shows us where those eclipses are happening, but some astrologers will look at that that way. What are we doing for the blue moon tonight? Haley, welcome. I hosted a full moon gathering yesterday as the full moon reached peak illumination at like 2 a.m. So we celebrated yesterday within my inner circle, and it was really delicious, really fun. And then I had an amazing dinner with my family. What's everybody else going to be doing for the full moon? Let me know. Now, let's go ahead and the last little thing I want to say about Mercury moving into Cancer, especially because it's going to be retrograde. So I am going to bring in just a little bit of awareness that whatever is going to be communicated during this period of time of Mercury and Cancer, we're going to do a lot of revising, reworking, revising of this energy. So just being aware. Just being aware. Well, the moon is still going to be in Sagittarius for the next couple days, so it's okay if you missed the peak of it. So you can still celebrate. You can still do your little rituals. It was at the first couple degrees. It was 9 degrees of Sagittarius, so we've got some time. Usually full moons are about releasing energy and new moons are more about manifesting, but let your freak flag fly. Whatever you feel is right is what you should do. Let's go ahead and jump to Tuesday the 2nd. We have the sun in Gemini at 12 degrees, making a sextile to Saturn in Aries. Yummy. I'm going to take a water break. Everybody drink some water. Y'all better be drinking your water or else mom's gonna come get you. Okay, fun little flirty sextile. I love this, especially with the fact that this is coming in just a few days after the full moon. It's bringing in this like your water bottle is moldy. Ashton, it's time to clean it. What the heck? Don't drink mold. Don't be drinking mold. Thank you everybody for liking and sharing the live. I see you guys. Thank you. All right. Sextile. So to kind of understand this sort of aspect that's happening here, the sun in Gemini, this is our egoic expression. It's a part of your chart that's being highlighted right now with more of a focus spotlight. Gemini, so always take a peek of where Gemini is within your own chart, ad lib, and if you want a deeper dive, I write about how all of this stuff is affecting you weekly in my newsletter, so definitely subscribe. This sextile to Saturn, and I feel like I'm beating a dead horse at this point by talking about Saturn and Aries, but I know that we have some new faces in here that are joining us for the first time. So Saturn in Aries is really bringing in a structure and discipline around slow and steady, which seems so ironic because it's Aries, but that's the thing that Saturn does is Aries and Saturn comes in and it's like, how do we create sustainability here? And so with Saturn moving into Aries, it's really understanding like this cultivating of our identity, right? That's Aries, the first sign. It really is I am. Who am I? How do I embody this energy? And creating a container for it. I really like to think about this idea of the paternal figure saying, hey, like if you want firewood in the winter and you want to have a fire to keep you warm, you better start chopping wood now. Saturn is really bringing that energy in of like just discipline around slowly building and cultivating things. I know, impatient energy. No. I promise you, look at my growth. It hasn't been success overnight. It's been showing up every Sunday here, every Sunday. I think there is always good in every aspect of astrology. There's always good, there's always bad, there's always the in-between, the gray. Honestly, I'm ruled by Mars. It's been such a freshening change of pace for me being forced to slow down. Yeah, it doesn't feel forced. Yeah, it feels like permission to relax, permission to allow things to unfold, especially, yeah, Mars being in Taurus right now. It's like, oh yeah, I can just slow down. I can slow down. Yeah, so this sextile that's happening between the sun in Gemini and Saturn in Aries is like this fortifying. I really like this energy because there's just this supportive, like, Gemini's, I'm not going to lie, especially after crossing over Uranus and having those moments, and especially the Gemini new moon that, well, we have a Gemini new moon that's going to be coming up later. So there's a lot of Gemini focus happening, but there really is this, like, we had a lot of mental static coming in, a lot of downloads, a lot of information, a lot of just mental substance coming in. So this sextile to Saturn kind of brings it down to a, like, oh, what do I like? What do I want to, like, how can I take, it's kind of the filtering of all this information of, like, I'm seeing somebody being like overloaded with like options, and it's like, okay, but which option is going to sustain me, right? How is this gonna sustain me? Oh, you're good. You are totally fine, Meep. It's more of the, like, Aries energy can be very easy to relate to Mars because it rules Mars. So you did make a connection there too. Hi, Tiff. Hello, love. Thank you guys for liking and sharing. Hi, Kayla. Yeah, there's a lot of info coming in. Yeah, I literally, it's been very like Seven of Cups energy. It's like there's so many different pathways, there's so many different things, and there's so many different perspectives of life and ways to believe, perceive, and witness things. And that's the thing about Gemini. Gemini has a kaleidoscope perspective, right? Shout out to my Gemini risings. And it's just like, there's just so much wonder. And now I'm thinking of, like, come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination, right? It's very like, there's just so much wonder. And so the sextile kind of brings like a good sobering to the energy. It's very supportive, where it's like on this Tuesday, it's like, okay, like this is going to be this energy that I can sustain, and like the mental thoughts that I can just settle into. Gemini MC. I feel, yeah, also a Gemini MC here, and whole different perspective for me with things just building and growing. There's almost too many avenues for things to come in, and so I've got to be more intentional with that. And then you get to the none of it matters. Yeah, no, literally, it's like, oh, and I can just do what I want. What feels good in the moment. So this sextile feels like this, like, fortifying of the energy, a fortifying of just the Gemini influx of information, right? And being really discerning about like your filter too. That's what Saturn's kind of bringing in, is it's bringing in this, like, what, yeah, again, going back to like what pathway, what process is going to sustain me. And the way they're bringing, it's like, what's going to really feed my mind and really cultivate like this delicious atmosphere. And I'm thinking of, like, it's interesting because it's kind of coming in like the idea of like gut health, but for your mind. So what are you feeding your mind? The music, right? I've been talking about this a bunch with this Gemini season, like the music you're listening to, the conversations that you're having, the media that you're consuming, right? That's feeding and programming your mind. And so Saturn's really kind of bringing in that like edge of like, hey, like, let's be aware of that. Let's think about that. Let's, you know, build some delicious mind meals for us. Yes. MC, it's the midpoint of your chart, the highest point of your chart, your MC, your midheaven, the cusp of your 9th and 10th house. So, okay, yummy. I'm excited for this sextile. And let's go ahead and jump to Wednesday, where Mercury is going to be making a square with Neptune a little bit later in the day for this, but Mercury will be at 4 degrees, making a sextile to Neptune at 4 degrees. Not a sextile, a square. My apologies. So, who knows what a square is? I feel like at this point I always say the same thing. So little challenge to the audience. What's a square? What kind of energy does a square aspect bring? I like to bring in my teaching modalities. What is a square? Yeah. Grem with the big T. Yes. Anybody else want to add to that? Frustration. Yeah. Oppositional. Yeah. Everybody. And then in the Twitch chat, we said tension from Grem and Sam. Yeah. So squares bring in that like friction and like tension and frustration and like irritation, right? I think about it. Square is always a rectangle, but a rectangle is not always a square. That's hilarious. Yes, tension. But a square can be good. Yes. I like to think of squares as opportunities for growth. All of the astrology is opportunities for self-reflection, self-growth. Can we see it in the moment? Sometimes no. Sometimes you're gonna like be pissed that you're stuck in traffic, like somebody said. Yeah, it's like a traffic jam. Yeah. So with this square energy, I always bring in the analogy of the tectonic plates. Like they shift and they move, and when they rub up against each other, we get something out of it. An earthquake, tsunamis, volcanic eruption, things happening, right? Things emerging. Yay, awesome. Welcome, Code Red. Yeah, so it really is this opportunity for like, what is being erected from this? What is coming up to the surface for me to look at? That is the substance that we get to chew on and digest and be like, oh yeah, this is where maybe I didn't have a boundary, or maybe I need to be more flexible because I've been so rigid, right? This is sort of like, yeah, when your back's against a corner, what happens? Are you able to breathe deeply and soften, or do you freak out and lash out? It's real. We're all moving through those different things. Now, this specific square, so we take all that information I just said, and then we put these two archetypes up against each other. We have this new, fresh Mercury in Cancer, which we talked about here. So thinking about soft communication with Neptune in Aries, which this is such interesting energy. I'm not going to lie, because let's talk about Neptune in Aries. Neptune in Aries, Neptune's the higher octave of love. It's dissolving boundaries. It's dissolving anything it touches. And in Aries, it is like the identity of this like energy of like, I am, and like, I am everything. But it's this, for me personally, the way I've been perceiving Neptune in Aries has been this like, our higher self ultimately, right? This part of us that understands like, I am consciousness, collective consciousness that's moving through a vessel, and I'm cultivating this identity, right? Aries, to move through. And then Mercury in Aries is the like toddler within us that just wants to have something because it wants it, right? And so there's tension between like communicating our needs and understanding those things versus this like higher understanding that like everything's going to be okay, right? I wouldn't say it's aggressive love. It's love. It's self-love. That's what I feel like Neptune in Aries is very this like, oh, when I take care of myself first, everything's okay. Everything's fine. But Mercury in Cancer is kind of this like, I want my feelings to be heard and validated, right? And so the tension here, and of course this can manifest outside of us, right? Depending on where this is falling in your chart, if it's making direct aspects to things within your chart. For me, this looks like whether it's you against you, and I'm going to kind of like put that into the conversation of like there being a part of you that is deeply, deeply aware that you are taking care of yourself, and that like that self-love sort of trajectory of like, yeah, I'm taking care of me and my higher self and like doing things and just like going for it. But that Mercury in Cancer brings in this like connection of like wanting to be held in it, wanting the words and communication to be witnessed, and like there's this edge of approval that kind of comes in with Cancer, where it's like, I want to be accepted. I want to be accepted in my vulnerability. Now this square creates the tension of, that might not just happen. That might just not happen. Okay. And there might be a part of you that looks at this Mercury in Cancer and dismisses it and goes like, no, your feelings are too much. Don't talk about your feelings. And the Mercury in Cancer looks at the Neptune in Aries and says, but you're like spiritually bypassing this experience. So think about that. Think about that. And this, it could be you as one entity and another person as another entity in this square configuration. It could be you and you, or it could be you and insert other character here. And then we can swap the roles, right? So that is how this is manifesting in the external or internal realm, right? So just depending on where this is landing for you, it might manifest outside of you, where there is that tension where you're like, you're in this deep, like, I am loving myself and my vibration is connecting to everybody around me. And then you have somebody approach you and is like, my big feelings. And you're like, wow, yes, I see your big feelings, but it wasn't the like proper emotional thing that happened. And so what comes of this? What comes of this square? It's the opportunity to learn how Aries and Cancer connect in this archetype, where your feelings, this cardinal energy of expression, both are valid, right? It's actually kind of like two sides of the same coin, where you can't have one without the other, like this sort of deeper alignment with self, but also that self has a right to express. That expression isn't wrong. And still understanding your emotional hygiene, that is a beautiful, beautiful thing as well, of knowing like, yeah, I'm not going to always emotionally vomit over the experience. But the thing I want to invite you into is understanding, are you the emotional vomiter, or are you the person who tends to like, take everything to the higher spiritual realm and just like not let yourself express? Okay. That's what this square is creating, the opportunity for you to explore, right? And integrate a little bit more. Having both. Yes. Ugh. Wow. Astrology. Yeah. Balance. And so something's going to come up with this square. Maybe it's a heated conversation, maybe big emotional storms, maybe it's a good cry with yourself and holding yourself, right? Yeah. Yeah. And we're all that way, guys. We're all that way. I see it. I can speak. You are both. We are all both. We're all of these things. We are both, right? I know there's moments where like I can like butt in at the wrong time and say the wrong thing, but still having the reverence and grace, right? For shit, yeah. Sometimes I don't say things right, and sometimes my emotions take over the space. That's okay too. And sometimes I can get way too in my spiritual practice and, you know, kind of like disassociate at a certain level of like, yeah, not being fully present. Thank you for making me giggle. I had a good cry this morning and I'm so happy I got to catch this. Yay, pink matter. I'm so glad. And for anybody who's just popping in and you weren't here for the full live stream, I re-upload this to YouTube at Astraemia, right? So you can always catch that or subscribe to my newsletter. I take everything and I write it in a beautiful written format. Yeah, I'm feeling this for myself too, of just like, yeah, we're, especially somebody that's ruled by Mercury, I'm like, oh, this is going to be interesting. And I'm already doing the calculations of where this is landing in my chart, how this might show up. But something that I like to say with astrology, even as an astrologer, when I sit down to do these live streams with you guys, I haven't looked at the week ahead. I literally just go into it with you guys real time live. As an astrologer, I have had my bouts of wanting to use astrology to control my outcomes. Even as much as I could try to plan and understand the transits that are coming, sometimes you just don't know. And sometimes you're just along for the ride and just letting it happen. So just again, The forecast for this week ahead: Monday, June 1st, we have Mercury entering Cancer. On June 2nd, Tuesday, the sun is sextile Saturn. And then Wednesday, June 3rd, we've got Mercury squaring Neptune. So now is the time for questions.